Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Julie Brittain, who is an Atlanta real estate advisor focused on luxury living, and we'll be talking about how she sells listings in a weekend. Julie, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, me too, and I'm excited about learning about how you sell a listing in a weekend. That's an attention grabber, but before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the real estate industry.
So I actually graduated from college with a degree in, 2 degrees in psychology and sociology, and decided that I actually wanted to make some money. So I got into sales. I was selling long distance right when the government deregulated all the bell companies, and I liked making money, and but I didn't like what I was selling, which was, of course, long distance. It was boring. And so a friend of mine was a realtor, and she invited me to hang out with her one day, and I did. We went to her office, and we hung out, saw a couple homes, and I decided that was for me, and that was 25 years ago.
Wow. You know, it's interesting how, so many times you hear the stat that 85% of all jobs are, gotten through networking and personal connections. Nothing against the monsters and Indeeds and all that, but most of the time, many of the times, jobs or opportunities are gotten through your personal connections. And that's exactly what happened there. Your friend probably was not gunning to get you in the business. They were just like, come hang out.
Oh, yeah, totally. It was like, let's just pull up FMLS and take a look at what's out there. And that was it. And I was like, well, that's cool. I get to see houses, and this is before HGTV and all that stuff.
Right.
So, But when I was a little girl, I used to kick my parents out of the house, clean it, and then make them ring the doorbell so I could show them the house. So I kind of think it was just meant to be.
Yeah. It's like you were a lister or a buyer's agent or a listing agent without even calling it that. So that was good prep. Awesome.
Yeah,
so
they loved it.
I know that as a real estate agent, a lot of people can say, oh, well, I'm a realtor or I'm a real estate professional. You are a real estate advisor. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I love the word advisor, because from a marketing standpoint, that does set yourself apart from the competition because it gives the connotation that you are a guide, you're a helper, you are an educator and an advocate for your clients. And it does not give the impression that I am a hardcore salesperson, come to me so I could sell you something. It's like, hey, I'm an advisor. So talk about why you chose that and what that really means.
So to me, I have a couple designations, and I prefer the word advisor instead of putting all the initials after my name because nobody knows what they mean anyway. Yeah. I have worked with investors. I've done commercial property. I've done leases, luxury leases, and managed property. I also have my certified property management designation. I love to advise people. I love to tell them, this is what I think. This is what I would do. And I think that they appreciate the fact that I'm honest and upfront with them and tell them exactly how I would handle writing this offer or turning down an offer and waiting for the next offer to come around. And I know that they appreciate it. I know they do. My old tagline used to be not your typical realtor, because I'm not, because I am so honest and upfront. And I'll tell you like it is.
So when was a time that you were honest and upfront and it actually turned a transaction away or delayed it, and another type of real estate professional might have just like gone for the gusto and gotten it done?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that happened a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact. I did lose the listing, and it was disappointing that they refused to make the changes that I had requested. And it pops off the market for a couple of days. They make all the changes that I had requested to make, and then another agent comes in, swoops in, and takes the listing at $15,000 less than what I had it, with all the repairs that I had begged my clients to do.
Wow.
It's very frustrating, but it happens. It happens, and so you just got to move on.
Well, it's like the age-old mantra. You do the right thing for people, and the right things come back around. You do it for the right reasons, and people that should be working with you. And who knows, maybe that client. And I'm glad we didn't mention names, so we can say this. But maybe that client would have been a nightmare client. You just never know how that would have worked out. But doing the right thing and giving the right advice is always the best formula.
Yeah, and I can tell you, she was a nightmare client. So
well, there you go.
Good riddance,
right.
Yep. Good riddance.
Exactly. Okay, let's now talk about when you work with sellers and you now are saying, okay, I want to show my sellers, or I want to promote to my sellers we can sell your house in a weekend. Most probably, I'm not in your industry, but I can only surmise that in order to achieve that, you got to do a lot of stuff on the front end, like let's make sure that there's good curb appeal and make sure there's no repairs and make sure that all of these things. So where do you start when you say to a seller, I can get this done in a weekend?
So it starts at the listing appointment, right when I meet them. And I'm glad you mentioned, curb appeal is number one. I do make sure that, and I've got a landscaping company I can call at any time to get them to come in there to straighten things up and to trim bushes and trees and stuff like that. So I do have a landscaping company that I can recommend, but curb appeal is huge. And, lots of time it's just making sure the front door is freshly painted, because that is a first impression when you're standing with your realtor trying to get in the front door. So that's where it starts is right at the very beginning. First meeting I have with them, I let them know, and I walk around honestly and have them take notes of everything that I know that they need to do to the home to get it sold. These days, it's different. I remember a long time ago when I first started in real estate, almost 25 years ago, people wanted fixer-uppers. They wanted to flip these homes. They wanted to spend $140,000, $150,000 in Brookhaven and flip a home for $300,000. It's the opposite now. Lots of younger millennials and Gen Zers, they don't want to lift a finger. They just want a turnkey ready property. They want to look at it and move into it in a month. Yeah. And so I like to get everything taken care of prior to the listing. So sometimes I'll meet with you and it might take a few weeks to get the home ready for my photographer to come in. And if you listen to me and if you do the things that I'm asking you to do, then I know I can sell the home in a weekend. So
that last phrase right there, I always like to relate things to, well, that's a teaching from, or, I've heard that in this industry. Well, as a marketing consultant, I've heard the phrase, success leaves clues. And when you can say, well, if you do these things, well, these things that we're talking about, and one of which is curb appeal, but I'm sure there's a checklist of things that, okay, here's in the listing appointment, we need to do these things. The reason you're picking these things is because they've been proven in the past to move the needle.
Correct. Yeah.
So what's another one? So curb appeal, obviously.
Yeah, and I have a professional staging company come in with me if the home needs it. Lots of times these homes don't need it, but if the home needs it, we'll definitely have a professional stager come in and make sure that everything is nice and ready. And I can bring in items. Most of the time, I'll tell you, I'm removing items from the home. People have a lot of clutter, so most of the time I'm removing items from the home and I'm telling them that they have to get a storage unit if they don't have space in their basement to hold the stuff that they are not quite ready to let go of. And I get it. I totally get it. But buyers these days also have a hard time seeing a home as their own when a seller has got so much of their stuff inside the home. It's hard for them to place furniture.
And you probably get pushback like, well, it feels lived in, or, that you probably get sellers that are like, clutter. No, because they are too close to the forest to see the trees. And so I think that, have you ever had the case come up where you mentioned to someone about clutter and storage unit and all that, and they push back, but then they finally relented, and then when it got done and they come back through themselves, and they're like, oh my word, that was a good call.
Yeah, and that happens frequently. And usually they're upset because they're like, well, that means we can't list it next week. And I'm like, that's right. We might be listing it in 2 or 3 weeks now.
Yeah,
you have you've got stuff to do now. You have your homework, as I say. You've got your homework. I'll tell you what, they're always grateful that they went ahead and decluttered prior to the move. Always, every single time.
Have you ever heard of the phrase, trust the process?
Yes,
I
have.
The Brittain real estate listing process is as follows. When you follow these proven steps, we can sell your house in as fast as a weekend. Not a guarantee or anything, but, I think that really does tie into, look, I've got 25 years in the business, been there, done that, seen a thing or two or three or nine, and if we need to do these things, you might fight me on one or two of these, but just trust the process.
That's right. Yep.
So then once all that is polished up and ready, and it's like, okay, here's the weekend. We've picked the date. Does that mean like Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend, like the whole weekend, and what is happening during that weekend?
Well, I'll tell you what happens before the weekend is I've got my professional photographer who comes in and takes amazing photographs. He also does drone videos, and he can even shoot a video, a walkthrough the home. So I get the videos back and the edited photos back. And then that's actually when I start marketing the property. But I have a listing agreement signed, and I start marketing the property usually on a Monday or Tuesday before the open house. I send postcards out. I make phone calls. I use a tool called Remind, and I contact neighbors in the subdivision, and I invite them to what I call the nosy neighbor open house, which is 1 hour before the regular open house on a Saturday or a Sunday. And I get to meet all the neighbors, and they get to come in and ask me questions about the home and talk about my experience and where I think the market's headed, yada, yada. So I do invite the neighbors, and I advertise to the neighbors first. And then, of course, I always create an event in Facebook from my Facebook business page. I create an event, and I blast it. I boost it out there. And 9 times out of 10, when I ask the question I have a QR code for buyers to sign in at my open houses so they don't have to touch anything. One of the questions is, how did you hear about it? And it's Facebook. Yeah. They heard about it through Facebook. I have a killer drone video showing the exterior of the home and then a few snaps of the inside, and they're interested. So that's when they come to my open house.
Do you do a Facebook Live from the open house on your Facebook page?
I have done it before. Absolutely. It just depends on what time of day it is. Yeah. When I'm doing the open house. Those are actually better in the evening. In the morning, if I'll do an open house, let's say from like 11 to 12 is the Nosy Neighbor open house, and then 12 to 2 is the regular open house for all attendees. Well, first of all, my open houses are amazing. I usually do a bubbles and bites, so I will serve champagne, Prosecco, Bellinis, some fun drinks to get people in the kitchen and mingling, and of course some light bites like little sandwiches and little mini cupcakes and donut holes and stuff like that.
So that goes way past putting chocolate chip cookies in the oven. The cliche, here's an open house, have some nice smelling cookies in there. Yeah, that's nothing compared to what you just mentioned.
Yeah, you should see my spreads. They're gorgeous. And I love it. And people walk in and they go, gosh, do you do this for every open house? Absolutely. Every single one gets an amazing open house. And usually there's 1 or 2 of them, buyers that are excited to see it. And they want to know where my next open house is so they can come and meet me next weekend to have a glass of champagne with me. So.
And yes, they're using the open house as a little snack time, but guess what? That is deepening a relationship with that person. So that's ingenious. And, the nosy neighbor thing, to be upfront with that, you always have the nosy neighbor, and they kind of feel a little like, weird. So now it's like, let's be all upfront and invite your neighbors in, because you never know, actually, when a neighbor has a friend from Rotary, church, whatever, gym, that they're like, oh my word, I just was in my neighbor's open house. You guys just moved to the area. You need to come check it out. And you never know where that networking and who do you know who brings a new buyer in from your open house.
Exactly. And it happens often. And I get to meet great people. I get to meet people who, and we find out that we might attend the same church or our daughters were on the swim team together last year or something like that. So it's really fun. I love meeting people. So for me, open houses are a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, and you use the E word that I think is huge, the event. You make it into an event, not just like an open house that the realtor is sitting there on a chair in the back corner on their phone, scrolling through their, social media. This is an event. You are front and center. You are the concierge to this event and making that house look like $1 billion, $1 trillion.
Yeah. That's exactly what I do. I love it.
Well, I tell you what, that sounds like the recipe for success. I know you cannot guarantee selling a listing in a weekend, but boy, those proven steps and doing it this way gives it as much chance as possible. So if someone is listening to this going, hey, guess what, Julie, maybe you can come check us out, our house. What's the best way that people can learn more about what you do and connect with you?
So my website is Atlanta Lux Living. And you can reach out to me via my website. My Instagram handle is Top Realtor Girl, and you can contact me via Instagram at Top Realtor Girl.
Awesome. Well, Julie, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you. It's fun.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.